All right. Looks like, Chris, looks like we've got some people joining here so far.
Yeah, looks
Welcome,
good.
everyone.
I see 22.
Yep. Well, I think we'll just give people another minute or so to make sure they're on, and then we can get started. Does that sound good?
Yeah, it sounds perfect.
All right, great. So people just joining, welcome. We appreciate you taking the time today for looking at our new product offerings for Phoenix and Integral. We'll be getting started in a couple minutes here, but just first a few housekeeping items. First, let me welcome everyone. My name is Mannix. I'm the Vice President of Global Sales and Strategic Partnerships for the software division. This webinar is going to be about an hour long, about 60 minutes, so we should wrap up around top of the hour. Chris is going to provide a little presentation as well as a demonstration of our new Phoenix hosted solution. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions. So there's a chat box on the right side of the screen. You can feel free to ask your questions. We will collect them. And in the second half of the hour, we're going to go through the questions together. Chris can address them. If you have any technical difficulties, please message us in the chat and we'll be glad to help you. This webinar is being recorded, just an FYI, and we'll email you a link of the recording in the next few days so you can review it at your leisure. And all participants are in the listen-only mode, so feel free to use the chat box so we can address any questions you may have. So without further ado, Chris, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure, thanks, Mannix. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on hosted Phoenix and Integral. These are new product offerings by Certara. My name is Christopher Mell. I'm the product manager for the Pharmacokinetic software by Certara. A bit about me, just an introduction. My educational background is a BS in molecular biology and an MS in pharmacology. Since being with Certara, I've conducted over 200 training courses on Phoenix Win-Non-Lin, IVIVC, NLME, and Trial Simulator. Since 2019, I've been the Phoenix product manager, which means that I gather customer feedback as well as work with our internal development team to decide on what goes into new releases of the Phoenix platform. So again, thank you for joining today. I'm excited to present the new hosted Phoenix product offering. So just a couple of talking points. We'll start with what is Phoenix. I expect most people on this call have some familiarity, but just a few touchstones here. So Certara's Phoenix platform is the leading PK/PD modeling and simulation software. It's used by over 6,000 researchers at biopharmaceutical companies, academic institutions, and global regulatory agencies. Phoenix extends the winning formula of Win-Non-Lin by combining its trusted algorithms with built-in, easy-to-use graphical user interface and a textual editor for advanced analysis. Phoenix 8.3 offers features that support compliance and efficiency, including visual workflows that can be reused and locked to maintain compliance, increase efficiency, and create reports. It is a global industry standard PK/PD analysis platform. It can produce high-quality tables and figures, and has a project-centric design to easily store, share, and reuse Phoenix projects. Also available is a fully integrated validation suite for fast automated software validation in under 30 minutes. So just kind of a summary of the Phoenix platform. We have 100% of the top 20 global biopharmas in over 60 countries. We've done training courses. Over 9,000 individuals have been trained by Phoenix worldwide. We're in 11 global regulatory agencies, and as of 2019, there were 43 FDA approvals based on at least partial work was done in Phoenix as part of the submissions. It's also used in academic institutions with over 33,000 peer-reviewed articles citing Phoenix. These are the regulatory agencies around the world that have access to Phoenix. Notice we have representation in both hemispheres, in Europe as well as in the APAC region. So what are some of the key functionalities of the Phoenix platform? So the Phoenix platform is a unified working environment with a central look and feel with each of these 6 modules that I'm about to just refer to here. The first and probably most familiar is Win-Non-Lin. It's used to perform individual PK/PD modeling, perform non-compartmental analysis, and do bioequivalence studies. A second module is the IVIVC toolkit, IVIVC standing for in vivo in vitro correlation, and it's most often used in formulation development. NLME, that's the nonlinear mixed effects module, which is used to perform population PK/PD analyses. The validation suites are available for both Win-Non-Lin and NLME and are used to perform automated software validation. There is a plugin called PK Submit that can be used to get inputs and outputs with Phoenix into a CDISC format for compliant submissions. And last but certainly not least, we have Integral, which is a secure central data repository that organizations can use to achieve 21 CFR Part 11 compliance. So that's a summary of the Phoenix platform. And now I'll address the question, why would we offer to host Phoenix? So the rationale for this is it's very important to understand that Phoenix is designed and architected as a desktop analysis software platform. So kind of like the classic use case for Phoenix is it's installed on a scientist's laptop and they use it to perform analysis locally there. However, many of the customers, particularly in the pharma industry, have long asked for server-based deployments of Phoenix to reach more users in a more controlled fashion. An example of this might be the Phoenix desktop application installed on a server, whereby end users access the server through some remote client, such as Citrix. There can be some challenges with many users accessing that same server, for example, limitation on RAM, CPU usage, and temporary storage space. It's very important for me to note that Certara IT has the technical and domain expertise to host Phoenix. So many of our customers have either tried to do these server-based deployments on their own or utilize third-party IT services. And that's fine that they've done that, but the third-party services might not necessarily know much about the Phoenix platform, how to optimize it, how end users are using it, whereas Certara does have that level of expertise with the application. So the advantages for Certara hosted are that our Certara IT can optimize the Phoenix application for maximum performance for end users. We also offer scalability with respect to the number of users and processor cores. We also offer validation of the software environment provided as a service. So as standalone products, we do offer a validation suite that customers can install and run in their environment. But in the hosted environment, Certara would use that same validation suite to perform validation of that hosted instance. And last but not least, since we're offering a hosted offering, we have managed change control. For example, any updates to the Amazon Workspace, AWS, as well as Phoenix version upgrades. So this could potentially remove a lot of cycles at a customer site, reviewing, making a business case for a version upgrade, going through scoping the project for rolling it out to the end users and doing user acceptance testing and all of those sorts of activities. Since we're hosting this, we can manage all of those processes at Certara. An additional feature that's available in Phoenix, it's been available for a while, but probably not as fully realized by some of our customers as it could be, is the job management system. So Phoenix does offer a job management system for remote processing with the following abilities. It allows for remote processing of workflow objects such as NCA. Maybe you have a very large data set with over 1,000 rows of data and you want to run an NCA, or large population PK/PD models for the NLME module. So it's possible to send such an execution off to the remote server for processing. It's also possible to use the JMS to remote process entire workflows. What's the key advantage to this? Why would you want to do this? Well, what happens is if you have a large job that you think might take several minutes or more to run, you can send that off for remote processing, and the end user can then do other work in Phoenix while the remote job is processing. Then when the job is complete, they can merge the results back into their project along with whatever work they were doing while the remote processing was happening. So it's a huge advantage. You know, it basically parallelizes things for the end user to operate more efficiently with the Phoenix application. Certara IT does have the technical understanding to configure and optimize the JMS for the end users. Okay. An additional observation we made as we were considering rolling out, offering Phoenix as a hosted service was we collected some performance metrics. So I've got 3 different environments that I'm showing in this table here. And in each of these 3 environments, the same operation was performed. And essentially what that was to run the validation suite, all of the tests through it to completion. So just a summary of some of these metrics here. The first compute environment that I'm showing is kind of a typical laptop installation. This had a Microsoft Windows 10 Enterprise as the OS, an Intel Core 2 gigahertz processor with 8 CPUs, and there's 8. I apologize for this. There's actually 8 gigabytes on the laptop installation. And then the run times for the Win-On-Lin validation suite was about 4 minutes. The NLME validation suite was about 50 minutes. The third column here is a Citrix server installation with Microsoft Windows Server 2016, an Intel 64 2.5 gigahertz processor with 2 cores. And on the Citrix server, in this 4th row here, I've actually got this transposed. The Citrix server allows 1.8 to 8 gigabytes per user in that environment. But the reason we tested this environment is we thought it might mimic maybe a more typical customer installation where perhaps the perception is that the performance isn't so great. And the validation suite for Win-On-Lin took 8 minutes 42 seconds in that environment, and the NLME validation suite took over 90 minutes in that environment. And then the last column over here is a Phoenix hosted in Amazon Web Services. So the OS here is the Windows Server 2016 data center. It's also an Intel CPU with 2.5 gigahertz and 2 processor cores, allowing up to 16 gigabytes of RAM. And the Win-On-Lin validation suite ran in just over 4 minutes. And there was a marked improvement also in the NLME validation suite, 32 minutes and 50 seconds. And one of the reasons that the NLME did so much better is NLME makes very heavy use of the user profile. It spins up a modeling executable and generates many temporary files, which are then assembled back into the project. And sometimes that can get slowed down because the user profile is heavily monitored by antivirus and other security measures installed on these machines. And in Certara's hosted environment, they were able to secure the temporary directory outside of the user profile, helping with the performance there. So essentially what we're aiming here for with this hosted AWS is that the performance of Phoenix should be more similar to the performance on an end user's laptop as opposed to a Citrix server, which has limitations on resources for the end users. Okay, so a bit about the validation suite. I wanted to talk about this just so everyone understands what it is and what it does. So 21 CFR Part 11 does include the requirement to perform software validation. A typical validation effort by manual test cases performed by an end user with manual cross-checking of results could take weeks or even months to complete. So the Win-Non-Lin validation suite are both, and NLME validation suite are integrated into Phoenix and are able to perform the software validation steps in the order of minutes. So essentially what happens is there's a standardized input file. It's run through a test script to produce standardized outputs. Those outputs on the test environment are compared to a reference file that produce those outputs with the same set of steps. And a comparison is done to make sure that there's no differences between the output on the test machine compared to the reference machine. So these are aligned with the latest regulatory computer system validation practices, such as ICH E6. And from an end user perspective, the validation can be done in some easy steps. There's a validation menu at the top of Phoenix, and one simply clicks Start Validation. Step 2 is to identify which product or products to validate, whether it be Win-Non-Lin, NLME, or both. And then a status bar comes up that shows the progress as the validation suite goes through the automated process of running the tests and producing outputs. When the test run is complete, there's the automatic generation of a validation report. And this is in a PDF format. This is an example of the validation report with embedded links. So on this area here, where I'm showing an example snippet of a validation report where it shows the test case name in the first column, the status, pass, fail, which result worksheets were examined as part of the comparison, and access to the reference file, the run file, and any difference files. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to do a brief demonstration of the validation. Okay. So I'm going to navigate over to the hosted Phoenix environment. So anytime you see this Phoenix logo in the cloud, I'm essentially operating in the example hosted environment. And here Phoenix is installed. And if I wanted to, for example, run the validation suite, I can just simply select the validation and then start validation. And I can go ahead and run this for Win-Non-Lin. I'll go ahead and use that as an example, and then select Start Validation. So the status window comes up, and it starts with an installation qualification, also verifying that the comparison tool is working in the validation suite, and then it will proceed through the different tests with a status of passed or failed when it completes an individual test. Okay. So you can see it's starting to run, it's bringing up the projects and going through the automated tests. And again, I'm running this as if it's a standalone product, which is certainly available, but I do want to stress that as part of hosted Phoenix, if you end up deciding you want to take advantage of that Certara offering, we would be running the validation as part of that offering. Okay, so while that's running, I'm going to switch back to my desktop machine. So it's still running in the hosted environment, but I just wanted to show an example of what the validation report looks like in the interest of time here. So we have a validation report. So let's say that the validation ran through to completion. This is what you get. You get the summary report with a signature page, as well as the name of the individual who ran the validation, signature, and date. Then there is a summary of the environment. So this is the environment. This is a local Windows 10 machine. And then in the test execution status, the tests are listed in a series of blocks depending on what type of functionality they're testing, whether it's general framework or Win-Non-Lin specific tests. This is example of some data tools that can be run in Win-Non-Lin. Some different PK compartment models, PK and PD both. Bioequivalence, which is another module that's part of Phoenix Win-Non-Lin. And a variety of other tools. There's an entire battery of non-compartmental analysis related tests, which include different routes of administration, and focus on different aspects of the NCA, such as partial area calculations, different AUC calculation methods, sparse versus serial sampling, plasma versus urine data, and other aspects of NCA analysis. So these test cases are designed to do a comprehensive validation of the non-compartmental analysis tool, as well as the other analysis tools that are available in Phoenix Win on Lin. Toward the end of the report, one can find the results, the specific results of the individual test cases. Let me go ahead and locate a non-compartmental analysis test. Okay, so here's one. So as an example, this is a IV bolus NCA test, and I can look at the final parameters sheet and look at the run file, and that will come up in a CSV format. So I can actually visually inspect the actual output file to look at the numbers that were used as part of the validation. And then we also have the difference file, which will compare the test file to the reference file. So, you know, this is just an example, but in this case, there were no differences found, so that the test was a pass. And again, Certara does offer this as a service as part of the hosted Phoenix package. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize my validation report, and let's go ahead and have a look at, so I'm back in the hosted environment now. The validation suite is still running. It's over halfway through all of its test cases. I did want to essentially demo this, but you've already seen the report. I'm not going to, you know, run it all the way through to completion. I do have the option to cancel, so I'll just go ahead and cancel this run. But as you can see, you know, it's already over halfway done in the order of several minutes here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to return to my slide presentation and talk about another module that also gets used with Phoenix, and that is Certara Integral. So Integral is a central data repository that has a variety of capabilities. It allows accessibility of the end users to the repository, and it allows one to easily bring together analyses from different types of software packages. So we're not just talking about Phoenix here. Any PK application, you could use SAS or R or other data sets from multiple and disparate storage methods. So it's possible to capture and record data in Integral, connect Integral to other data sources, such as a Watson LIMS. You could also use it to visualize data and do meta-analyses, or you can take data from this repository and analyze it in a PK software package such as Phoenix, and then return those results back to the central repository. So this would be an example of a workflow. In the hosted Phoenix, it would be possible to connect to Integral, which is in the Certara Amazon Web Services private cloud. And what the customer could do is use data analysis or browse the data through a web browser and store the results in Integral. It's also possible with Integral to have what's called a partner license. So let's say that some work is outsourced to a CRO, and you want that CRO to be able to connect to the Integral instance. With a partner license, that's possible. So maybe the CRO does some work in SAS or R or in Phoenix and wants to save those results back to Integral. And there's different layers of security. So the partner might be restricted to only see 2 or 3 or a handful of studies that are in Integral, whereas a full access user on the customer site could see more of them. Maybe a project manager can see all of the studies, as an example. So this is sort of an example, a generic workflow of how a customer might use Phoenix and Integral with interoperability. So what are some of the features of Integral? The first is that the security is managed via logged in by OKTA. It is a cloud-based application hosted by Certara in AWS. The OKTA login for all users allows two major means of connection. One is through a plugin in the Phoenix platform, and the other is via a web browser. And then this is the typical login screen where one has a username and password to sign into Integral. This is a sample view of Integral. On the left panel here, we see all of the different projects that are stored in that instance. And then within the project, the files are organized into data and analyses and library sections. So in this example screenshot, a user performed an analysis in R, and they wanted to look at the R script for creating some VPC plots. So this is looking at that R file stored within Integral. Here's another example. This is the security module in Integral, and it will show different roles. So there can be roles such as administrator, write user, read user, archivist, or partner, and a summary of different accesses to root folders, which are, if I go to the previous slide, these folders in blue are root folders. Data folders, where the input data can have either read, write, or write access, as well as whether a user can delete or lock the data set. Also, whether the file is blinded or not. And then library files are typically shared files that might be used in more than one different study. So for an example might be a workflow template that you want to reuse for several different studies within the system. Whenever a user tries to either save something to Integral or make a change to something existing, the user gets prompted with an electronic signature screen that requires them to provide their username, password, as well as a reason for making the change. And this gets recorded in the audit trail to support 21 CFR Part 11 compliance with respect to handling data and outputs. Okay, and what Integral does is it keeps track. Each time one of these events happens, there is an entry into the audit trail that indicates the type of event that happened, as well as the reasons applied by the end user who made the change to the data. Okay, so a summary, of Certara Integral is it does ensure the 21 CFR Part 11 compliance for regulatory submissions. It is a secure and third-party verified, pre-validated, cloud-based software as a service hosted technology. It provides version control, traceability, and auditability of data. So that's with respect to compliance. With respect to operational efficiency, it has one data and model repository, which helps provide data integrity and an improved workflow. It's accessible through the Phoenix platform or technology agnostic via client application. Enables quick search and visualization of data. It is designed to adhere to CDISC data standards with respect to searchable content. It allows sharing and reporting of internal data with both CROs and partners. And it also has an implementation guidance which is included to maximize efficiencies and best practices. This is a list of the features here. So oftentimes organizations that don't have Integral might use different ways to help ensure compliance. So for example, file versioning via a SharePoint site, or configuring security access at that SharePoint and archiving from that SharePoint. But there's some gaps in some of these other solutions. GitHub is another example. The legacy PKS system is a third example. Integral has actually expanded on the legacy PKS system to provide all of the features that are shown here. A notable improvement is the CDISC data mining capability, for example. So that is a background on Certara Integral. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the hosted environment. Okay, so I've got Phoenix here. And what I might want to do is connect to Integral from Phoenix. So I've got an Integral plugin here at the top of Phoenix, and I'll go ahead and select the browser from there. So this is to connect to Integral from Phoenix. Then I need to set my Integral instance. I'm going to close and reopen Phoenix briefly here. Make sure I have all my required licenses. All right. I'm going to go ahead and load project here. Okay, I've got Integral running. Okay, so I wanted to okay, there we go. So I'm connecting to Phoenix from Integral, and I need to specify my password. Okay, and I'm in. And so this is from the Phoenix browser, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm looking at several root folders that represent different studies in Integral. And I can pick one of these. So maybe perhaps I want to look at this one. So this is the root view, and this was actually created by a different user at Certara. But both Simon and myself have access to this study, and within it, I might drill down and find analysis. And inside analysis, there's an NCA project. And so what I'll do there is go ahead and load this save point into my Phoenix application. Okay, and switch back to Phoenix. Okay, and so I'm just going to briefly show what this project is. So this is a project that has NCA at its core and a variety of exploratory plots and tables and the like. So this would typically have been created using a workflow template, whereby one might do a linear plot of the different subject concentrations versus time by treatment. There are two different treatments here. There's Integral as well as Integral plus rifampin. So it's essentially a crossover study with two different treatments. The non-compartmental analysis object is here and has all of the PK parameter computations, as well as a table that is summarizing all of the final parameters such as Cmax, Tmax, AUC infinity, AUC percent extrapolated, clearance, and volume of distribution, formatted to different precision levels depending on the parameter. But these can all be set up by the user, as well as a box plot comparing Cmax for the two treatment groups, integral and integral plus rifampin, as well as an X-categorical plot comparing Cmax across the treatment groups. So let's say as an integral user, I might want to run this workflow. And while it's running, I might want to do some other things in Phoenix. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this workflow out of date. And I'm going to do that by selecting this data link object. I'll just unmap one of the variables and remap it. So now it's marked everything is out of date. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remote execute this workflow using the job management system. So I'm going to go ahead and select this remote execute option. And it asks you to give a job priority and which job queue it's going to go to. And then I'll go ahead and click submit. And it will go ahead and set it submitted successfully. And then there's a job status window that will tell me what's going on with the job as it's being run. But for now, I'm going to minimize that because I want to keep working in Phoenix. Rather than wait for this to all run, I'm going to go over here and let's say that I want to make another plot. For example, oh, I forgot to include a log plot. So I might go ahead and send my sample data set to plotting, XY plot. I'll put it in the main workflow and then name log plots by treatment, for example. Okay. And then I want to go ahead and map my plotting variables here. So maybe I want to compare by treatment description as a column, group by subject, and then select the y-axis and make sure it's set to logarithmic. And then I'm executing this plot locally. So the remote job is still running. I'm doing additional work locally here, and then maybe on the layout, I want to fit image to screen so I can more easily see a comparison of the two treatment groups. So, I've been working on this plot. I can go back and I can check on the status of my job. So I'm going to go back to the job status window, and the status here says results in queue, which tells me that it's done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and merge these results back. So I'm selecting action, merge. I'm going to leave these defaults to keep the project open after merge, and then select merge. And I do want to select this option. Do you want to wish to save changes to my project? Because I did add a plot. So I want to keep that plot. So I'm going to answer yes to this question. Okay, and it tells me it's complete. The job queue is now cleared out because the job's all done and I've got the results from it. So now I have the workflow, the re-executed workflow with all of the outputs, as well as the table, plus my additional plot that I worked in while the workflow was running. And then as a next step, what I might want to do is save this back to integral. So what I'll do is I'll select the integral option, save. This is going to save my latest work back to that same analysis folder. Okay. I do have some other save options I can do, such as different file formats for different outputs. I'll save that for a full-blown integral demo at another time. But for now, just realizing you can also look at things like dependencies, where data came from, and so on. But for now, I just want to save my work back to integral. So I'm going to click the little next arrow here, leave the default selections, and then press finish. And at this point, it's asking me for a reason. So I'm going to give a reason why I'm saving back this new version. So I'm going to say rerun workflow and add log plots, because that's just basically a summary of what I did. I will put in my username and password. Okay, it's now saving back to integral. Okay, and the save is complete. So at this point, I'd like to take a look from the integral browser. So let me, and I can access that through this hosted instance. I'm still in the Amazon workspaces here. And I want to navigate down to that study that I chose. So that would have been this one that was created on June 9th. So I'm going to expand that, go to analyses, and then go to the NCA and select this. And the revision has incremented by 1. So it was on revision 2, now it's up to revision 3. I can then look at the history of this project and see that it was created, revisions 1 and 2 were created on June 9th by Simon Davis. And then that I had rerun it on August 16th. And it has my reason, rerun workflow, and add log plots. So that's stored in the system. I can also generate an audit report to examine in more detail. So this is a PDF file. Okay, so it gives a report summary, what files are included in the report, when was it authored, the revision number, the size, what's happened through various iterations of working with this file. So very detailed compliant system that does the tracking for you. You might have noticed one of these other analysis scenarios turned red. The reason is probably because this is an R scenario that depended on the NCA results. And since I updated those, this area is now out of date. So all the user would have to do is rerun this R analysis, and it would get refreshed and up to date. Okay, so that's an example of going back and forth with Integral and Phoenix. I did want to briefly look at the security section as well. So this is my login. Essentially on this system, I'm an administrator as well as a full licensed user. There are other roles such as QA, partner, and archivist. My group membership is to admin and user access. We do provide different access levels out of the box with Integral, but it's also possible on a per customer basis to configure some of these roles. And then this is a summary of file permissions. So essentially, as this user, I've got access to a variety of basically full permissions to everything here, but there might be some other users who have less access to the system. Maybe check this guy. So this particular user only has read access to root folders, data, documents, and analysis. So it is possible to control on a per user level what level of access someone has to the system. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my presentation at this point. So, that's essentially a summary of Phoenix, Integral, as well as how do they interoperate with one another. I did want to basically show the product offerings themselves. So now that we understand what Phoenix and Integral are, what types of products are now available? So the first is called WinOnline Secure. WinOnline Secure is Phoenix installed on a desktop with a plugin for data storage in the cloud. It includes one WinOnline license, one Integral admin, one integral full user, as well as a validation suite license. So that's Win-Non-Lin Secure. The second product offering is Phoenix hosted. This is Phoenix installed on an AWS server with data stored in the cloud, but with no integral. So it's just Phoenix alone, but hosted in the cloud. The users have access with Amazon Workspaces installed on their desktop. And I should mention that essentially any machine that can run Amazon Workspace can connect to Phoenix hosted. And that does include Macintosh machines. So Windows, Mac, any machine where you can run Amazon Workspace can connect to Phoenix hosted. This package includes one Win-Non-Lin license, as well as Amazon Workspaces and AWS server managed, maintained, and validated by Certara. The third product offering is Phoenix hosted compliant. So this consists of hosted Phoenix on AWS, but also an integral instance that the customer can connect to. So the data is stored in the compliant integral cloud. The access is still with Amazon Workspace. And this package includes one Win-Non-Lin license, one integral admin, one integral full user, Amazon Workspaces, AWS server managed, maintained, and validated by Certara. Okay, so at this point, that concludes my planned presentation, and I would like to open the floor for any questions.
Yes. Thank you, Chris. That was great. So we do have some questions coming in. Let's see here. So first question is, how often is Phoenix updated on the hosted version?
Yeah, so a new Phoenix release comes out approximately once per year. I say approximately because I've seen it be as long as 1.5 years, but I've also seen 2 releases in less than a year. But if you average it out over time, it's about once a year.
Okay, and the follow-up from this person is, do we get notified when it's updated in the hosted environment, or is there some kind of notification?
Yes, so Certara will notify all customers who have hosted Phoenix that an update's occurring, whether it be an update to the AWS environment or an update to the Phoenix version.
Okay, we have a question from someone in the UK. Do you validate for companies in the UK?
Yes, certainly. It doesn't matter what your geographical location is. We will provide those validation services for you.
Okay. And do they get a report or something like that, just like you showed in the presentation?
Yeah, so you'll get the PDF report that shows the pass-fail result for all of the test cases that were run in your hosted environment.
Okay, cool. Looks like someone had a question. You mentioned Mac. What types of machines can access hosted Phoenix?
Yeah, sure. So essentially any machine that can run the Amazon Workspace. So it's essentially a client application. If I'm on my desktop machine, which I am now, apologize for all of this, but essentially I've got this little application called Amazon Workspaces. I run it and log in with my login, and it essentially spins up a kind of a VDI type window where I'm actually in it now. This is that environment that I've been showing you that shows Phoenix in the cloud. And it's basically like a virtual desktop, but this is all run by Amazon Web Services. Okay. Yeah, as far as the Macs are concerned, I know that there's a client for AWS on Macs, and essentially any environment where you can run that AWS, you can access it. Okay,
thank you. So just install the AWS Workspace, click, and go into the hosted environment, right?
Exactly.
Okay. How does Phoenix AWS protect data?
Yeah, so Phoenix AWS has its standard data security measures. It's through our contract with AWS. If we need to spell it out at a more detailed level than that, we could certainly put it together in an email response. But AWS is a very respected global authority on secure cloud storage. So essentially, we trust them to host the data. But if more information is needed, we can certainly provide that.
Okay. Thank you. There are lots of questions coming in. So what do the IT department that supports Win-Non-Lin in the company need to know in order to implement the cloud AWS solution for the user community instead of Citrix publication for local install.
Yeah, no, that's great. So that essentially this comes back to what I was talking about earlier in the presentation, which is a lot of companies have rolled out their own server deployments. In this case, it's greatly simplified for the customer's IT. All they need to do is make sure that all of the end users have Amazon Web Services application installed on their machine. Certara will take care of actually hosting the application, as well as the maintaining of running Phoenix on the back end in the AWS instance. All of that's set up by Certara. It's just a matter of coordinating the end users and making sure they have Amazon workspaces and that they have a login to hosted Phoenix.
Okay, and a follow-up, I think, to that is, can the data of a Citrix environment be migrated to the cloud environment? If yes, what kind of effort would this represent?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So you have access to the hosted environment. The simple answer to the question is if you get Phoenix hosted compliant, remember you have the integral client. So in the integral client, you can actually upload data from the Citrix installation directly into Integral. And then when you're accessing Integral from hosted Phoenix, you can pull that data from Integral into the Phoenix application. So that's the direct and most seamless approach to do it. You could also do things like, set up a file transfer if you wanted to get it into the hosted environment. But our recommended approach is to use Integral as the central repository, and then the users can access Integral from either the customer's Citrix website or from the hosted Phoenix application.
Okay, got it. So using leveraging the browser.
Exactly.
Yep. Another question here, is there a limitation in terms of number of users that can work in Phoenix at the same time?
Yeah, so we're designing this product offering to be scalable. So there aren't any limitations on the number of users. You can work that out with your account manager in setting up the contract, but in terms of physical limitations, there's no physical limitations.
I think each person gets an instance or something, right? Something like that?
Each person gets an instance, that's right.
Cool. What date will the PowerPoint be released, and who is the contact point for service details? So okay. I think I don't know if when the PowerPoint will be released per se. I think it would be shortly after.
Yeah, I mean, it should be later today, tomorrow morning at the latest in terms of the PowerPoint. As far as setting up the services, maybe Mannix, you can elaborate on this a little more. But typically, you're going to want to set something like this up with your Certara account manager. And they can guide you through the process of, which product offering is the best fit for your organization, how many users do you need, and just set up the services agreement.
Yep. Yeah, if you don't know who your account manager is, you can go ahead and email sales@certara.com. I'll see that and I'll route it for you. But if you do, just reach out to your account manager and have a one-on-one discussion. Okay, will older versions be available on the cloud-hosted version? Regulatory inquiries will need to have access to the version the model was executed on maybe 3 to 4 years later.
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, right, there's a reason we're collecting these audit trails with date timestamps. You could have a long-term running study, or there might be an audit that occurs later on, and you want to preserve the entire record throughout the course of the study, whether it be 3 weeks ago or 3 years ago. And so, we have that full auditing capability in terms of hosted Phoenix. It's a per user, per customer type of rollout. So I think we could do that in the scoping meeting with your account manager. Generally as an out-of-the-box product, hosted Phoenix is going to be the latest version of Phoenix. But if your organization has needs to have an older supported point version, that could potentially be negotiated with your account manager.
Okay. Next question do users have permission restricted on the hosted server? In other words, can they install other software on the hosted server, i.e. SAS, Viewer, Excel, antivirus, etc.?
Yes, so the end user, again, this is something that should be specified. By default, the users will have access to that, but, it's a matter of scoping out the project between the customer and Certara IT as to what, if any, additional restrictions to impose on the user. But yes, out of the box, they'll be able to install, say, Chrome web browser, or if they want to install other applications, they can install those.
Cool. Where geographically is Phoenix hosted?
Yes, thank you. So geographically, the first release of hosted Phoenix is in the U.S. Eastern region. We have very near plans to expand that to Frankfurt as well as Japan.
Okay, so it'll be some localization there for them.
Exactly. That's the idea. It's easier access and better performance based on the availability of more geographic regions.
Here's a good one. Does Certara offer a free trial for hosted Phoenix? And I'd be happy to address that. So if you reach out to your account manager, we can arrange for a free trial. So go ahead and you can do that, and we can sign you up for a free trial of hosted Phoenix, and maybe you can actually compare, your current setup versus hosted if you want to do that side by side. Next question: can I get hosted Phoenix with or without Integral? I think you covered this, but yeah.
Yeah, you can. So that goes back to the slides I was talking about toward the end here. So essentially, the middle product offering is just Phoenix hosted by Certara, and then the last one, Phoenix hosted compliant, has hosted Phoenix plus Integral.
Okay. So they can choose whatever is best for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. How can I purchase Phoenix hosted? I can address that. If you are interested in Phoenix hosted, would like to learn more about your specific use case or look into pricing for your organization, just reach out to your account manager and he or she can guide you through that. If you don't know your account manager, again, sales@certara.com, I'll see that and I'll be able to route that to the appropriate person. I think that wraps up our time for today. Chris, thank you very much for the overview. Thank you all who joined and attended today. If any questions, specific questions around your particular business needs, please let us know and we can go ahead and talk to you in more depth. If you want a demo just like this, more specific to your organization, we can do that as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.